Hello, this is Shellye Archambeau, and you've joined my monthly Ask Me Anything. Once a month, I set aside time to address any questions or comments that people might have about their overall career or how to make life work in general. I'm also the author of Unapologetically Ambitious, a book that provides advice and counsel on how to achieve your aspirations and actually get what you want out of life. So, with all of those things said, I want to jump in and answer questions. So I've received some that I have in advance, and I'll read those. But I'll also try to follow comments that come in through Instagram Live and or through my YouTube channel. So if you have a question, please feel free to pop it in, and I will try to get to them all before we close out our session. And this is the first day of January 2024, so I'll be yet another person to say Happy New Year. I think this will be a great year in front of us. We need to keep our attitude positive so that positive things can come our way. All right, so first let me start with questions. I see I already have some in the chat, so let me address those. I wish to increase my scope of work and my skip line. So I see my second line manager likes the idea, but my manager says I already have too much on my plate. How do I convince him subtly to change his mind? So first of all, if you have a set of responsibilities, you want to make sure that you're actually able to take care of and address everything that is, quote, your responsibility in a superb way. Then when you do that, then you demonstrate that you have bandwidth to take on more. So if you're struggling or if you're working too many hours and just to keep up with what you currently have, then it's going to be hard to convince your manager to actually give you more. Because at the end of the day, whatever they give you to do or ask you to do, they're ultimately accountable. So they want to make sure that they give you what you can actually achieve. So first thing first, have a conversation with them about what currently is on your plate. Review how you're getting it done so that you can share the fact that you actually have bandwidth. You can also find out if they have concerns, which, oh, by the way, that's okay. The best thing that can happen is you talk about concerns and then you're able to address the concerns. So many people don't want to ask the question or leave themselves open to getting bad feedback. But I'll tell you, the only way you can address concerns that people have is if you know what they are. So sit down, have the conversation. Say, here are the things that I'm responsible for what's on my plate. Here's how I'm addressing them, and here's why I believe I have more bandwidth. Then give them a chance to explain why they don't think you do. And maybe you'll uncover that there's an area of your responsibility that maybe they think you can do better. Better to know that now so that you can address it. So I find the best way to handle these things is to actually have a direct and professional conversation. And excuse me, I linger and cough. Okay, next question. This one has to do with earnings. In Seattle/Silicon Valley, a principal software engineer earns up to $1 million. It's almost 10 times that of a mechanical engineer's salary. What do you think about that? I believe in market dynamics. So salaries are all about what different roles and different people can command. Because it's not just roles. You can find all kinds of roles that pay different amounts of money in different parts of the country, in different types of companies, and frankly, with different levels of skill set and capability. That's the way the market works. So I don't have a problem with people earning different amounts. The key is to make sure that you have the strongest set of skills that you can have so that you can command the dollars that you believe you're worth. Next, sometimes managers play games too. For example, a manager wouldn't inform a key important stakeholder in advance about something that's important and would later add it to feedback. Okay, not quite clear what you're saying. The bottom line is companies are made up of people, and you have all kinds of people. You have people that are helpful and straightforward and want to be great teammates, and you have those that won't. The key is to learn how to work with and around all types, because as you work toward your overall career, you're going to encounter all kinds of people. So don't get hung up at any particular kind. The key is to figure out how you continue to get done what you need to get done to be successful. I don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about a whole lot of other people. And next, one of my managers told me that friendship is more important than work when it comes to teamwork. But they told me this when my promotion had failed. Instead, they should have told me this at the beginning. How do I build trust with them? All right, so it sounds like you were going after a promotion and your manager didn't let you know up front that it's important to build relationships with other members of your team to actually be considered for promotion. So again, I wouldn't focus so much on, okay, building trust with the manager. The key is take the manager's feedback. You got it late? Okay, you got it late. But now you know what it is. So if they think it's important that you build relationships with team members, then work on building relationships with team members and checkpoint with your manager. 4 months from now, checkpoint to see whether or not he's seeing that and is there value, right? What's being perceived. So that later on, when you ask for that promotion again, you will have feedback very specifically to what it is that you're doing. Okay, I'm going to now jump to some questions that I got in advance. How should I discuss a potential promotion with my manager? Again, I think it's important to be a little direct. And when I say a little, what I mean is you don't walk in and say, hey, I've got a potential promotion and I just want to make you aware of it. What you might want to do is to go in and try to make your manager part of the overall conversation and part of your support. So instead, you might approach it this way, which is, I've recently learned about an opportunity that I think I might be a good candidate for, and I'd really like your opinion. Now what you've done is you've walked in a way that says you're looking for your manager's feedback, for their perspective, and you're seeing this as a joint activity between the two of you versus just announcing that you've already made a decision about going after a promotion. So that gives you a chance to get your manager's input and feedback without putting yourself at too much risk. So your manager might say, you could say everything from, well, frankly, I don't think you're ready for it. Okay, that would be disappointing, but it would be great to hear. Why? Because of what I said earlier. It gives you a chance to ask them, why don't you think I'm ready for it? And now you can get feedback on areas that they think you need to strengthen. And then you can decide, do I want to wait and not go after it until I have my manager's support, or do I want to go after it without my manager's support, right? Those are not choices that you have and that you can make. So I've always been a big believer to build a strong relationship with your manager and to make them part of the overall process. But they don't have the final say, you actually do. Which leadership skills were the most difficult for you to develop? That's a good question. Most difficult. Oh, goodness. I think I'd say the managing by walking around. And let me explain what I mean by that. There was always so much to do that I tended to take everything that's going on, right? I'd organize my day, I'd fill it with meetings, projects, conversations with people, etc. But I didn't make enough time to just frankly walk around and informally see how people are doing, see how things were going, etc. I had to consciously make sure I was making time to do that. That was one of the harder things for me because it's so much easier to frankly make my list and then work through my checklist, get things knocked off, do what I need to get done, right? From a efficiency standpoint. So I had to consciously do that. Where some people, it actually is very natural for them to take a breath and a breather, walk around, see how people are doing, all that kind of thing. The good news is you can develop the skills that you need to develop by just being intentional. So the key is to figure out, what are the leadership skills I need to build, and then work on building them. And yes, some are going to be harder than others. That's okay. The good news is you have the capability to build whatever skills you're trying to build. What habits have you found help you to be more productive? Managing my calendar. And you know, it's funny because when I got the advice from a mentor a long time ago, he told me, he said, it's very important to manage your calendar. Well, at the time, I was like a senior manager, maybe, and I thought, manage my calendar. I barely have control over my calendar. My calendar is filled with meetings that other people call, right? And action items and calls and et cetera. How am I going to manage this calendar? But over time, I realized that it was actually really good advice. Because yes, there are some things you cannot control about your calendar because they are regular standing meetings, management calls, et cetera. But there's still a lot that you can control. So once a quarter, I literally go back and look at my calendar to determine, did I spend my time consistent with my priorities? And when I first started doing that, turned out I wasn't. I was spending my time on everybody else's priorities. So take the time to actually look at your calendar, see how you're spending it. And those elements of time or chunks of time that you're spending on things that frankly aren't that important to you and your objectives, figure out how you change that. Are there things that you can delegate, or things that you can just decide, you know what, you don't need to do, or things that you can go back and say, I know I've been asked to do this, but here's why it may not make sense. So manage your calendar would be my number one piece of advice. All right, next. How can I best assess board members for their genuine interest in helping my startup? That's a really good question, because a lot of people want to get on boards for the excitement, the glamour, the prestige, who knows. And then what happens at times is people end up with boards filled with people who frankly don't give them the time or the help they need. And that's not productive, especially as a startup founder and or executive. You're working really, really hard. And to have people that you have to chase down, right, is very, very frustrating. So I give you a couple pieces of advice. One is ask them why they're actually interested in joining the board of your startup, of your company. And look for reasons that actually tie to what you're doing, that tie to the problem that you're solving, that tie to the passion that you have versus, oh, I want to help. I mean, anything that's general, well, then frankly, they could tell any CEO that answer. So look for answers that are actually specific to what you're doing. And if you're not hearing that, odds are they really don't have passion for you. Number two, if they pass that passion test, ask them to make an investment in your company. Now, it doesn't have to be a big investment, but any kind of investment. By making an investment, it shows that they're willing to put skin in the game, that they really do care about what it is that you're doing. Third, ask for references. Right? Talk to other people either on whose boards they've served or people they've mentored or coached, right? Help, anything that's similar to the kind of environment that you're looking for as you build your board. And then the last one, if you really want to be extra certain, is ask them to be an advisor before you ask them to be on the board. Because an advisor is just an independent role. And you can say, hey, tell you what, I'm interested, but let's get to know each other. Why don't you become an advisor for the first 6 months? And then let's see. That way you get a chance to see if we're the kind of company you want to be on the board of. And it gives us a chance to see, right, if you're the right person for us. And if they're willing to do that, then again, you have someone who's really very interested. And that gives you the opportunity to see them up close and see how they work. Next question. Yep, I see one came across. It says, in my company, written feedback from colleagues is anonymous. And when people are up for promotions, it looks like anyone can submit information about that person. So sometimes promotions get blocked when people highlight things that need to be improved. And yet people who wrote the improvements, they get promoted. Why? Okay. Well, this one sounds very specific to a company. Honestly, I can't answer questions that are very specific to companies because I don't know each company's culture. And every company's culture is different. So I would tell you that sounds like a really odd process. So maybe it's not the kind of company you want to be working for. And if you really want to delve into it, this is when you should talk to human resources. They're the ones responsible for the processes and everything else around the company. So just, again, don't go in unprofessional, go in very professional and just say, I'm interested in moving forward and building my career in this company. I'd like to understand how this process works. Can you explain, blah, blah, right? That kind of thing. But that would be my advice. Okay, next. Oh, another board question. What are board member red flags for early stage founders? Oh, that early stage founders should look out for. Well, there's flags at two different stages. One is when you're recruiting board members, and the other is when they're actually on the board. So when recruiting, again, flags would be the counter of what I talked about earlier. If people can't actually explain to your satisfaction why they're interested in joining your board, that's a red flag. If they are on a whole bunch of boards, that's another red flag. They may not have time for you to actually spend the way that you're going to want them to spend with you. Once they're on the board, red flags are when they try to actually do your job, when they are playing not the role of governance, but the role of operator. So it's really important as the CEO to make sure that you create those boundaries. A board's role is governance. The CEO and management are responsible for execution. So when they start diving too deep or trying to tell you how to execute, then you have to step back and just say, okay, we need to be clear on what everybody's roles are, right? Now, this is probably not a conversation to have in the broad boardrooms, but definitely one-on-one. You can just pull them aside to say, I've noticed that you're diving deep in the operation. Happy to answer any questions you have offline, but in the boardroom, really want to focus on the governance aspects. I need your help with strategy, blah, 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 right? But it's really our job to execute. Also, if you have general counsels in your meeting, which many companies do, you can use them also to help with setting those boundaries and making sure people are clear on what they should do and shouldn't do as an overall board member. Those would be a couple things I'd offer. All right. My second line manager told me that my role is to get myself added to meetings with executives and powerful stakeholders using my soft skills because nobody will formally invite me. I'm expected to influence decisions in these meetings too. How do I develop relationships where I get added to these meetings? Okay, so this is an unusual one. Unusual in that this is the process. It's actually an informal occurrence in many places. So how do you get invited to meetings? Well, meetings are called to actually accomplish something very specific. Typically, right? There's an agenda. Here are things we want to cover. So one way to get invited to a meeting is to be seen as a subject matter expert in the key topics of the meeting. So if you're trying to get yourself invited to meetings that are being led by people more senior than you, then the key is to make sure that you understand what is most important to them and then build the skill sets so that you are seen as a key thought leader on a particular topic or a key person in executing on this topic, whatever it might be. Now, how do you get seen in that way? A couple ways. One, become somebody that actually shares a lot with others. I mean, between Slack channels and emails and whatever, right? If you're seen as someone that's helping others, that's offering insights, that's providing perspectives that are helpful and useful, others will see that. And they'll think, it might be helpful to have them in this overall discussion. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is by working to develop relationships and just providing insights to people. Meaning you can have a quick hallway conversation when you see somebody to say, I know you're working on X, Y, and Z. I thought it might be helpful for you to know that ABC, right, is also happening that might be related to this, etc. Let me know if you'd like me to keep you posted on the work we're doing with ABC as it might relate to what you're trying to get done. Right? So it's figuring out how to be helpful, how to offer information or perspective that they may not have directly. Those are some of the best ways in terms of building that overall visibility that you get invited to these meetings. I'm a product manager in a German company in Germany, but our senior leader is in the US. I work with a tech team that's usually delayed, and I'm new here and wanted to grab visibility. All of us are working on a complex key feature, and that's dependent on our product manager as well. Okay? There's another program manager to coordinate and report, and all of us communicate on a chat channel. Got it. So lots of people involved, chat channel, got it. I tried to be the voice of this complex feature to get promoted fast after joining the company. But this program manager badmouthed me in several meetings where I was absent. But how should I have handled this without the unpleasantness and more smoothly so I wasn't badmouthed? Well, I'll tell you, if somebody's badmouthing you, then something's happening. So the first thing to do is to go to the person that's badmouthing you. And again, don't go and say, why were you bad-mouthing me? It puts them on the defensive, right? Odds are, who knows what they'll say or how they'll react. Instead, go to the person. Don't mention the bad-mouthing. Go to the person and say, I'm new at the company. I'm really working hard trying to lead my project, right? Or that I've got responsibility for. I know there are areas that I can improve. Given that you've been here for a while and we're part of this extended team, I'd love to get your feedback. What can I do that would help me be more effective in my participation in the team? All right. So now what you've done is you've taken somebody who's kind of against you, if you will, right, and has a bone to pick with you, etc. But you've now asked them for help, and you've asked them for input and perspective. And many times that disarms people. So when you do that, they feel, oh, okay, maybe you're not so bad after all, because you've recognized that person's value, right, in asking for help. So that's the way I deal with it. When I find I have challenges with people, I typically turn it around and actually ask them for help. You would be amazed how powerful asking people for help is in establishing and building or repairing an overall relationship. Okay. Just scrolling through to see what I've missed. Okay, I asked an engineer in my firm about his opinion of product executives and managers. I'm a product manager. He said, quote, these folks are always the same. They use all of this positive rhetoric when they speak with inspiring terms to get people all excited, and then they develop a nonsense framework to peddle to their peers in leadership. Then turn around and just do what's cheapest and what will progress their careers. Wow, okay, obviously this person doesn't think much of product management. Well, I'm a product manager and I feel bad when I hear that. What do you think about this observation? Well, first of all, everybody has their perspectives. So given this is how this person feels, right, and you are a product manager, it's a great opportunity to actually turn them into a supporter. So when they make that kind of statement, you say, really? Okay, I don't want to be one of those people. So I'd love, as I'm building out my plan, my whatever, to get your feedback, right, along the way. And then what you can start to build is a supporter, because now you're taking their feedback. So don't just take that feedback, lick your wounds, and go away because you feel bad. No, turn it around and use it. Say, okay, well, I don't want to be one of those people. So what can I do? How can I communicate? What would be helpful to engineers? What would you like to see in product managers, right? And then build your support along the way. This question, how do I build trust with my manager and my second line manager? The easiest way to build trust is to do what you say you're going to do. And I know that sounds really straightforward, but frankly it is. When a manager, first line, second line, they have a set of responsibilities. They're accountable to deliver a number or objective or program, code, whatever it happens to be. And they're counting on each of their team members to do certain pieces so it all gets done and they're going to be successful. So the first way to build trust is when you say, I got it. When you say, I'm going to do it. When you say, I will deliver it. That you do. And you do it when you say you're going to do it. You do that repeatedly, you develop trust. Because that's really what trust is. Trust is when you believe that somebody's going to do what they say they're going to do. So that's my answer on that one, right? Do what you say you're going to do. And make sure if there are going to be issues, because trust me, issues happen, right? Something might be out of your control. Fine. If you're trying to build trust with somebody, give them a heads up. Let them know that this issue happened, this unexpected risk developed. Here's what you're doing about it, but here's the impact it's going to have. But do that in advance. Don't do it after the fact or when it's too late to make any course corrections. You want to do it when their input and involvement can actually be helpful. Again, that's how you build trust. As I always say, bad news should travel faster than good news. That way people have to give you a chance and an opportunity to turn bad news into good news. Okay, next. And this is the last one I've got in terms of on my list. So if you have any others, feel free to enter them into the chat. How do I prioritize applying for jobs and higher paying roles in larger companies if all my time goes away in my current role at a hectic startup? In my startup, we're launching a new program, and there is job instability for slow performers. All right, that's always the catch-22. Because yes, you have to do the job you currently have as you are looking for here's another job. So does that mean extra hours? It does, right? You're not going to get all that done necessarily in your work hour. So what it means is you just have to carve time out from someplace else to get it done. The other thing is make sure that you are prioritizing your own work ruthlessly and that you're looking for ways to actually gain efficiencies so that you can find that extra time to be looking for that next role. And then get others to help you in looking for it. Let people know that you're looking for it in a safe way. But let people know that you're looking for a new role and ask them for suggestions. Or if they hear, specifically what you're looking for, which is the best, then you can say, hey, if you hear of a, manager of AI engineering role, let me know. That's what I'm looking for, right? Be specific. And that way, not only are you doing work, but then you get other people helping you too along the way. All right, everyone. Those are the questions that I have to answer for today. I want to thank you all for joining. I want to wish you a very happy new year and much success. And if you notice, the themes for today was really about communication. So much of your success is about how you're able to communicate with others, build relationships to be able to move forward. Have a great day, everyone.